Good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, January the 4th, 2024, and I began about 5 days ago making a temperature quilt, and I'm using the data from New Orleans, Louisiana for the year 2023. This is my little map setup. I downloaded this from the Moda fabric website, Temperature Quilt Planner. Entered in all the high temperatures, low temperatures for each month of the year. And then I have just take it down, it'll be easier. I have this all pinned together to make it a little more efficient. But down here, I have a master map. I took the time to do a layout because I wanted my variations of color for each month to be on the diagonal. So my layout is rectangular and I have 18 rows across. I'm using a 5-inch square, mostly 99% batiks. I have a few that aren't batiks, but just maybe 2 or 3 fabrics. So I have a 5-inch square, which I'm not cutting. And I am appliquing because I just wanted to do that technique instead of cutting the 5-inch blocks. I'm appliquing a 2-inch square with the edges turned under 1/4 inch and then just sewing it around all 4 edges. To give it the look of like a color wash quilt, but with the temperature quilt laid out in this fashion, you start with, so 18 by 21 blocks yields 378 blocks, and there's 365 days in a year because this is not a leap year. So that gives me roughly 13 blocks that aren't representing a day of the year. So I started off with a blank, and I'm using this Tula Pink Lineworks black, gray on black fabric for that. And what I'm going to do is when I long arm quilt it, I'm going to write with the long arm the day each month to represent. So right here in this upper corner will be January, for just the month of January. And then on row 2, block 1, like I said, I'm going to set it on the diagonal, but I'm going to sew it in a straight line from left to right, which makes it super complicated, but that's the look I want, and I don't want to have to sew blocks that way and not have zigzag. It just can't do it that way. You have to sew it this way. So I filled in all of the days of the month and months of the year. It ends in December 31st here with another blank block in the corner, and I think what I'll do here is put my quilt label and put that it's a temperature quilt, New Orleans, Louisiana, 2023, and so forth. So what you end up with, like row 1 is January 2nd, January 5th, January 9th, 14th, 20th, 27th, and then February 3rd, 12th, 22nd, March 4th, and it goes through June the 14th. So I'm already at row, and I have the most challenging part, time-consuming part so far has been to figure out an organizational system that's efficient. So the next step that I did was my color swatch mapping. So I printed out multiple versions of this, and it had the side. I ended up covering this because I didn't do, on my extra pages, I cut out these swatch card placements. So I'm for my location, my highest temperature was 105 on one day, and the lowest temperature we had was 35 degrees. So that I ended up with, let's see, each row has 20, and then I end at 36, so 36 different fabric swatches. Now each fabric swatch represents 2 temperatures. So I only have one day that we had a 35-degree temperature, so I'll put the lightest color. On the 105-degree day, I put the darkest color out of and it took a while for me to pick the right colors because there's no way to predict how this falls in line with how it's going to look on the finished quilt once it's color washed in random color order according to temperatures is it's a mystery. So it's coming out well. I'll spin the camera around at the end. I did want to get some of this on film so that if I want to do a video and actually put it up on YouTube, I would have some kind of conjecture and explanation getting started. So basically what I do is I've made little piles by row. So I'm on row 14, so let me fold this back the way I had it so I can pin it back up on my little cloth here. And then I pin it here just so that my eyes can quickly go back and reference. And there's probably a million different ways to do this. This happened to be the way my brain figured it would be the easiest for me. So on my master map in tiny letters here, I have the numbered colors. So this is 1, 2, 3. Now, where you see 2 of them here on number 3, I have this red and this other dark. So for some of the ones that had a lot, now the parentheses letters is how many. So high is the 5-inch block, low is the 2-inch blocks. So I went through my master map and counted. This took a lot of preparation. How many I had of each one so that I would know if I had, like, let's say, like this has 9 of the big blocks. I knew that I could probably get that out of a fat quarter because I have a lot of batiks. I have a lot of yardage pieces. I have a lot of fat quarter pieces because I was in the fat quarter batik club for about 1.5 years. So, but that's only, 18 by 20 and a 5-inch block, you can't get 20 pieces out of that if you want it to all be consistent. So there's a lot of thought that went into this for choosing what fabrics and to make the best use of my fabric stash. So with all that being said, I'm on row 14. So I take this little short pen with a black head and I'm marking each row as I go so that when my eyes glance to it, I can see, okay, I'm on row 14 at a glance because it's very easy to mess this up. And then on this side, this is my pressing order so that my seams will nest when I put each row together. So I only mark one row at a time. So again, I have a little black reference so that when I get to this end, I'm looking at my arrow and kind of going backwards with my eyeballs from there to see where I'm at in the sequence. So what I also did, let me put this back, and I place it to where I can see all of it. And I'm in a secondary sewing area here in my house. I have a big studio with my long arm machine, and I've been sewing about 7 to 8 hours a day. And it's winter, and I just want to be in my house. I'm right near a sunny window. I can look out and feel like I'm not in winter right now. So what I do is I have this little system of, I had these 1-inch grid construction paper grid pieces, and I took the time to, to put all of the months that did 365 blocks, and then I grouped them together with Wonder Clips by the month. And I have this other little set of numbers here that came off of a quilt project, a panel project thing, and each little piece was numbered. So I put Scotch tape and saved the numbers. So this is my row representation. So I'm on row 14. That way, if I have to stop and leave and come back, I'm keeping it organized as possible. So when I begin, like to gather for row 14, I look at my master planner here. 14 begins with March 30th. So I'll pull, and I'm already done with March, so I've taken that clip away. So block 1 is March 30th. And so I go all the way across, and it's 18 numbers. So I double check at the end that I actually have 18 little 1-inch squares. And this is my numerical system. So as I'm pulling for row 14, I'm already on block 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've done 7. So I'm putting them face down here because I'm going to save them if I want to do another one. The numbers, no matter what city you represent, the order, if you do it from upper left corner down to lower right corner for the color wash. And this is the Terry Rowland. She has a YouTube channel and I love her content. She doesn't have a ton of videos, but I love her explanations and her aesthetic. So I did take the idea from her. Shout out to Terry Rowland, R-O-W-L-A-N-D. I think she's from Canada. Not positive on that, but somewhere way further north than South Louisiana. So my next block would be number 8, which is July 27th. So I put that separate down here on my little table. This is the rest of the row that I haven't done yet. So as I go, like I would get to row, let's say my next row is going to be row 15. I will take my little clip bundle here. No, those are the ones I've already done that are used. Anyway, you get the idea. I would take row 15 and pull all 18 pieces from there. Here we go. So 15 would be the next one. And then I would look here. The first date is April the 12th. So I'm going to pull my April blocks and have the 12th. Put that face down so that they're in the right order. And then the next one's the 28th of April. So here we go with April 28th, and then I have this will be the next row below, so I'm going to put the clip on it and go from there. And then we got May the 14th, so I'm going to flip through and find the 14th, put that face down, and then the next block is a blank. So I made little skinny cards here for blanks, and that way I know to pull one of the black. I don't have to do any piecing or applique on that. I'll put the blank as a spacer there to know that I need to pull the black, and so forth and so on with that. So I'm not going to do the whole thing, but that just gives you an idea of how I organize this so that it's, so I'll just put this here, and that's, I'll know that I need to finish that off. And then when I'm done, I clip the completed rows together, and I put another little blank tab, so I have little extra pieces of that construction paper here. I write with a Sharpie and circle it, so this was row 13. So if I do another one, because this has been super fun, I'm loving the way it's coming out. I would possibly be interested in doing one in a whole other region where the colors would be completely different. So I'm just keeping the bundles of this together. It'll be so much easier next time to not have to, because the sequence will be the same. The temperature colors would just be different. So that's a little bit of that. I'm gonna do, so let's pull, so this is what I do. I know my next block is July 27th. So I'm gonna look and find the month of July, which starts here and then comes up to here. The 27th is here. I know you can't see it, but the high temperature for that day was 95 and the low temperature was 76. So 95 is the 5-inch blocks. So I'm going to look here at and I'm going to know that, okay, so here each color, each fabric represents 2 degrees. So this is 94 and 95, and it's a 5-inch block. So I'm going to find, and then right here is number 6. So this is number 6, which is this coral color, and I actually had 2 different variations of that I've already used. So I'm not going to use the one that has my pen, so I don't have to pin it each time. I'm going to pull, actually I pull from the back just because it's easier to just flip it over, grab one from the back, and then I pretty much for the most part have my batiks in, there's really no right side, wrong side, but there kind of is. So I get under the light of my sewing machine. There's just a little bit of slight difference in the texture, and this is the right side. And I like to put, if it has a variation of color, I'm going to kind of play with it and see. And I'm also not doing my appliques centered on each block. I'm doing them a little bit of more improv style. So this is a little bit upper left, this is a little bit center right, and so forth. So this color right preceding it is the same exact base color. So what I'm going to do, this has like a little bit of linear going this way. I'm going to turn this one with the little lines going the opposite way just to give it a little bit of a different look. And this is kind of lower right. I'll probably go upper left with, so let me turn it this way, and that way I'm not covering my dark blob here. So again, July 27th, let me go back and find the low temperature for that day was 76. So 76 is pile number 15, which is this yellow fleur-de-lis, just sort of a Louisiana thing, and I just love it. It's Mardi Gras colors, and it's just a good contrast. It pops off these darker colors. So there are, and I'm going to use the small block, the 2, because this is the low temperature for that day. And I'm just going to look. There's some purple in here with the coral, so I've pretty much gone through the purples in here. There's like some of them are just aquas, which is beautiful too. But since this has purple in it, I'm going to pull one that has a little bit more purpley blue in it, and that's the one we're going to go with for that. So what I have found is the fastest and crisper way to do this 1/4 inch turn applique is to just put it on this sewing machine cabinet and use my fingernails are long and strong right now, so I just kind of finger press it with my nails, and I do opposite of each other. I don't go sequentially because I find that it is easier, like if you box in the corners of like a cardboard box. So I do each side across from each other, then I spin it and I'm trying to get it just a little bit inward so that when I sew this down, I don't want that little dog ear turning out. So if you angle it just a 1/16 of an inch or a thread space toward the middle, it's way easier to sew it down. And then I will give this a press with my iron. I just want to make sure my iron didn't shut off. This is, I have several Aliso irons. I've had them from 7-8 years ago, and this one, when there was a shortage on them, this one's not the professional one. It still goes up and down with the Smart Touch, but it does shut off after 15 minutes, which for sewing is not super convenient. So what I do then is I take the last end that I finger pressed, and I just sort of basically hit it lightly with the iron, and then try not to stretch it where that I just kind of give it a little hit with the iron, and then I hit it with some steam and let it sit there for 2 to 5 seconds, and then it's perfectly crisp. And then if there's a little thread or so, I just sort of push that to the middle or snip it, but I'm trying to do this as fast as possible. Now I want the fleur-de-lis is directional, so this didn't come out perfectly here, but I'm gonna put that to where, and I said I was going to do probably upper left slightly, or let's just do upper center. So I'm just trying to make sure this is a little bit inward. So I'm going to use my stiletto. Now my stiletto has a little burr on the end, so when I hold it with the lettering up, there's a little slight hook on the end that is very convenient for catching and manipulating the fabric. And this Juki, I have a vintage 201 Singer, which I love to piece with, but it was giving me a little bit of trouble, and it doesn't have nearly, I like my knee lift on this Juki. I have my stitch length at about 1.8, and I like to start about 1/8 of an inch from the top corner, and I'll do 1 stitch forward and 2 back till I get off of the edge of it, just to kind of lock. It just comes out better, I find. Okay, now I'm forward again, and then I try to get these edges sort of lined up, making sure that nothing's sticking out, because once you get too close to the end of it, you can't really manipulate it, and I do want it to look clean and not. So I'm going to go very close to the edge, and I have my machine in the needle down position. Using my knee lift, I'm going to pivot, and then I can already see that this little edge is going to be a problem, so I'm going to sort of manipulate that with my stiletto, get it all lined up, and I'm going to stop again 2 or 3 threads from the end of the fabric. I do like to clip this little end before I get to it, so I usually do that on that point so that I'm not sewing back over a loop, and I can see where this, I'm going to tuck that under, tuck this one under. I know this is persnickety, but I do want this to look nice as possible. Now when I get to the end here, I'm going to go, again, I go all the way off the edge, just a hair. So I slow down, walk the foot. Okay, now I'm off. 1 more stitch. and then I go back 3, forward 1, and then with the Juki on the foot pedal, if you click it with your heel, it cuts. Lift with my knee. I give it another little hit with the iron just to set the threads, and then I put it back down, face down, in the direction that I want to sew it in. So that's that. Now what I'm going to do is flip this over, so I know I've already done that one. Push this out of my way, and I'll show you how I connect them. So I put the pile on this side, and this one's going to go right side up. This is block number 2, so they're in order. I'm going to flip it over, and if you're very precise when you do the cutting, this goes together super easy. I do not pin. Again, I'm going to use my fingernail here and here. I'm going to lift. I am back stitching because I have found that, so I'm going to go 2 steps forward and 3 back, so, and then I'm going to go fast because this is a TL 2010. When I get to the end, I'm going to back stitch 2 or 3 stitches again, and then I'm going to break thread. Lift it, and then I'm going to look at my map. I'm pressing the seams away from block number 1. So I put it down like this, give it a finger press so that when I take it, when I press the whole row, they're all going to already be scored with my fingernail in the right direction. And then we get number 3, right sides together. Now there's a little variation in the size. I even out the difference, so I'm lining up. See, the green one's a little bit bigger on each side, so I'm actually looking at the previous gold as a guideline. I'm going to use my fingernails to even that out. And this is a perfect 1/4 inch foot to the edge here, and I also have a little red mark on my machine just so that I know. Again, back stitching, break thread. And then if you plop it down where you can flip the seam allowance either way, it's already, I'll tell you what, this is the first time I do a big project with batik fabric, and I am in love. So it's always sort of a skeptic about starching, but I can see the value. Batik is almost like starched fabric because it's a heavier weight cotton in my opinion, and because of the process of how they do the wax for the relief of different dyes, it gives it a stiffer body. So and when you finger press it, it stays as though you're ironing it. It's very enjoyable to do this method with it. So I get the point now why quilters love batiks. Again, I'm pressing away from row 1, block 1, so very, very enjoyable. This is meditative. I've been doing this now for about 5 days, 6 to 7 hours a day, and I'm just loving it. So I'm going to put this down. Let me lock it in place, and I'm going to turn the camera around and show. And I love watching videos here, some quilter content, and there's a lot of other genres that I like to watch. But I'm going to swing this camera around and show you what the quilt looks like now up to, this is 13 rows, and I have it on a king size bed here, and I am loving it. Let me unplug. Oops, watch my finger. So this is row 1, and I left the little numbering labels here, and then this would be January 1st, the gold is January 2nd, and then where the 2 fleur-de-lis is January 3rd and 4th and 5th, and it's just a very random way to have an organic looking project without your brain interfering and wanting to pull 2 things away that are the same. You know, it by default just, it is what it is. So I'm really loving it. So you can see where this is January, and then where the first black block here would be the beginning of February. So that's January 31st. February 1st is here. So diagonally from upper left to lower right, each black block represents the beginning. So like this would be labeled February, January in the corner, February, then March. And then this row 12 begins April. So it's, you can see on this side how all the hotter months, because you know 2023 was a record heat. We did have a day where we had 105 degrees, which I haven't gotten to yet in the sequence, but you can see how all the reds, and this is where the color choices come in when planning, because this is the first time I do this. Let's go back to the map where we can see that this is the one day. So I have one 5-inch block where I had 105 degrees. The low, why do I have 80 there? Oh, for that day was, so I was trying to figure out, so the low on that day, particular day, which was August the 27th, the high was 105, the low was 80. So I just put that there as a reference to figure out, okay, so let's go to 80. That's going to be, you know, I wanted to have enough contrast. So I didn't want, because there's so variable, the spread of temperatures, it really was a lot of brain power, honestly. This next time will be a whole lot easier, but yeah, this, I was trying to figure out here. So again, this is my quantity. So I knew that in the high column here, I only needed I had 2 days with 102. So I picked the darkest of my batiks that were in maybe a fat quarter or just a scrap, because I didn't want to cut a whole row. When you cut a 5-inch row with a fabric, that yields about 8 blocks. So you can see I only needed 5-inch squares. There were no low temperatures that were, my first low temperature begins at 82 to 83. So I wanted more variety. I wanted it to be as many fabrics as possible. So I chose to do only a 2-degree spread. I know a lot of other people do 3 degrees or 4 degrees per color. I wanted it to be scrappier than that. So on row 12 here is where my doubles start. So where I have 2-inch squares and 5-inch squares. All these others in the higher numbers, which were the colder temperatures, our lowest temperature overall of a low was 35 degrees. So I only needed one of those. So again, I didn't start, this line right here is where my 5-inch blocks end at 27. So from 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36 were only 2-inch blocks. So I needed very little for that. And then from row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 were only 5-inch blocks. No 2-inch blocks of that fabric choice. So where you see 2 numbers in parentheses, I needed 21 5-inch blocks of this color, and of the same color, 9 2-inch blocks. So this has been very fun, very enjoyable. I will be keeping this quilt for myself. It will be, I did upsize it from, I think in Terry Rowland's example, she ends up with a 3.5-inch block once she does all the construction, and she does it in like a square within a square sewing technique, not applique as I'm doing it. So this is just the way I wanted to do it. I will keep it myself. I did upsize it. That's what I was saying. I upsized it to 5, and I cut the raw squares at actually 5 1/8 so that it would fit a king size bed. And I still may have to put, this is a king size bed in a spare room that I have here, but it could overhang. Like this is another king size quilt that I've made. This is a Nancy Rink Amish with a twist that I have turned upside down because there's a lot going on in this room with wallpaper and printed fabric on the drapes. and I have a green with black carpet here. So I turned this quilt to the back side to give it a little more neutrality. So with 18 rows going across, 18 blocks going across this way, I'll have 21 coming down this way. I only have one block hanging over each side, so I'll probably do at least 2, 3, or 4 inch borders just to give it a generous. I like big quilts, so that's my plan for that. But couldn't be happier with this. It's enjoyable, it's beautiful. I love the contrast so far, and I'm a little past the halfway mark now, because with 21 blocks coming down, I'm sewing row 14 right now. Yes, so the halfway point would have been between block 10 and 11. So I'm already past halfway. All right, I'm going to end this now because we're already at 30 minutes, and not good. I don't know how to edit anything yet, so I've been just recording some content just to get started with uploading some content for things that I feel are a little bit unique and interesting. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this. I certainly did, and stay tuned for more. Bye.